And it was lovely to see. We asked you, we kind of wanted you to think about your role and just see whether there was any difference between the general roles we were expecting here. So we had teaching support staff as one role. Um, we had research staff, and then we had straightforward lecturers. But I think in common for all of you, which is no surprise, you were all very interested in being effective teachers. There was a lot of talk about being inspirational, which is great to hear. Some people talking about being inclusive, making sure no one was left behind, connecting with students, building that relationship with them, being able to communicate ideas to your students and push them and challenge them. And I love this one, somebody thinking about getting the students really to think and care about the world. That was lovely. There's also some mention of give students a buzz, teach in other ways, not just using PowerPoint. So hopefully we'll share with you some of our ideas on that. And actually there was a lot of mention of it being enjoyable and fun, which was great to hear. And not only for the students, but for you as members of staff as well. So I love that idea that it was about being enjoyable and fun and communicating excitement and passion for your subject. There was also some mention about some people wanting to learn more about the teaching theory and polish their teaching skills and get to grips with Bristol's methods and expectations for teaching. So certainly we'll be telling you about what Bristol is hoping from you, and we will be engaging you with some of the theory, and we'll be signposting you to more if you want to follow that up. So Julian, over to you with the fears.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and we wanted to hear as well, what were some of your concerns? What were some of your fears coming into this year about what it was going to look like, how it's going to work? And it was interesting to see, some themes kind of emerging from that, particularly some around use of technology and how that's going to work, and that's perfectly understandable. As we've all probably experienced some of that, and I think you'll probably find that your students have experienced some of those issues around the technology as well. So there's maybe a degree of understanding there, but things to maybe be aware of as well that can be really supportive, that maybe not everyone knows about, are some of the support that's available to you in engaging with the technology. So for example, the Digital Education Office have some really fantastic resources to help you think about how to use technology, what technology is available, and different ways of you being interactive with your students in the classroom. Also, one of the really useful things that they have that we've certainly found helpful over the last couple of years now is the drop-in sessions. Every day around about 2-3 o'clock they have a drop-in where you can turn up and ask someone from the digital education team, talk to them about what you want to do in the classroom, how to use technology. If you're having a certain problem getting something to work, you can talk to them about it, and it's a fantastic resource to just be able to talk through some ideas, particularly maybe try some things out with them as well, which can really help in that planning process, because I think a lot of it is about building up confidence and having a chance to try something out before we kind of launch into it in the sessions. So certainly have a look through the Digital Education Office pages. You can access that through the main university website, and they will also then have links to their drop-ins and some of the other workshops and things that they're offering as well. And also, just in terms of the technology, a thing we would advocate, and they would advocate as well, is about having a plan B wherever possible. So technology sometimes will fail, but is there something that we can do, for example, using asynchronous resources like Padlet's, other ways in which you can maybe engage students if, for example, the broadband isn't working at the time that you need it to work. So it's useful to have plan Bs. I say I have my laptop, so it's paired with my mobile phone, so that if my broadband goes down, I can connect via my mobile signal relatively quickly as well. So some things like that can be just helpful for when the technology does, as it almost inevitably will, fail you at some point. Some of the other fears that were coming around as well, we're looking at things around the sort of things that we might class as a sort of imposter syndrome, where we're concerned about being found out, being asked a question that we don't know the answer to, or students not kind of wanting to engage with our teaching, these kind of things. And I think those are certainly very real fears. Some people also talked about teaching in a language that's not their native language, and the issues there. And I think one of the things then that we'd advocate, and really where this session in particular is so important in terms of the approach that we'll be talking about, in terms of an active student-led approach to teaching, is it very much takes the emphasis away from the student, from you yourself as the bestower of wisdom who stands at the front of the class and talks at your students, and puts much more of the focus on the students and on them being able to build their understanding of the topic that you're covering with them, and making sure that the teaching is seen as this collaborative process where you are all together working in the same direction, working to achieve the same ends of the students building their understanding of the topic. And I think where we can embed that sort of culture in our classroom of dialogue, of mutual support, of collaboration, then that's going to help us to not feel so exposed, not feel like everything then is dependent on us knowing the exact question to everything that we're being asked. Because certainly we might have those feelings, but it's unrealistic, isn't it, for us to be expected to know everything, and also there's something as well in where we're asked a question that we don't know the answer to. That can be a really rewarding experience for students, where you undertake that process with them of finding out the answers to things that you don't know, and sharing that process with a student can be really empowering, really nurturing for a student to see how that works. How do you go about finding out things when you don't know the answers? So some really interesting fears there, and hopefully across this session, as we think about ways in which we can be active and ways that we can place some of the emphasis on the students, that might help to alleviate some of them.